Hi everyone, my name is Serhi, and in this video I want to show you stash and pop git commands and where you need to use them. Imagine the situation. You are in the middle of writing new code, everything is going well. Then your team lead sends you a message. Can you quickly fix that bug on the main branch? But you cannot switch branches. You have changes everywhere. What do? All the commands I'll show you here in Visual Studio Code Terminal. To open terminal, you can click Terminal, New Terminal. You can use any other git bash terminal and the effect will be the same. Think of git stash like a temporary shelf. You take your current unfinished changes and put them on the shelf. Git then gives you a clean working directory, as if you never made those changes. Later, you can come back and take your work off this shelf. This is called popping the stash. There are 3 commands you need to know. The first one is git stash. It saves your changes and cleans the working directory. Git stash apply brings your changes back, but keeps them in the stash list too. And the last one is git stash pop. It brings your changes back and removes them from the stash list. Now let's stage our changes. So we can use git command git add and dot to stage all our changes. So here we have 2 stage changes, and now we need to switch to another branch. We can commit these changes and then we will be able to check out. But what if our change is not fully correct or is not fully implemented? So in this situation we will use git stash command. So let's again look at the source control panel. So here we can see our stage changes, and now let's type our command git stash and run it. So as we can see, our changes disappeared. That is okay, so they are stashed, and now we can check out to another branch. So let's check out to the main branch, and here we are on the main branch now. Now let's get back to our previous branch. So imagine we do everything we needed in this main branch and we can return back. So let's check out to our previous branch and let's pop our changes. So we need again to see our previously stashed changes. We use git stash pop command. And here we can see our previously implemented changes. So the change in HTML file and our change in styles file. So now we can proceed with our work here in this branch. What if you don't want to stash everything? Maybe you only want to stash one file and keep the other changes in your working directory. No problem, you can give git exact file path. So right now I have changes in 2 files, in HTML and styles file. But for example, I only want to stash the CSS file. I want to keep HTML changes. I will again use stash command, but with a little modification. So now let's use our specific git stash command. So here it is. We use git stash push with message. Here we have CSS changed font size. As we can see, I really changed font size here, and here I specify the file I want to stash. Let's run this command and we can see that this CSS file really disappeared from here, from source control panel. Let's pop our changes. So here I have git stash pop and let's return it back. And let's try to stash multiple files. So I can use git stash push, but for example I want to choose the files I want to stash, and let's change our message. Here will be changes in CSS and HTML file, and here I specify styles CSS, then I add empty space, type index.html file. So now I'm gonna stash both files. And how to check we really have these stashed changes? We can use the command git stash list. And here we have our stash with index number 0, so we have only one stashed file. And here is the message we already know, so the previous message, changes in CSS and HTML files. Let's pop these changes again. Now I want to pay your attention on stashing changes with a message. So let's again stash our changes. So here we have stash message. Let's stash our changes, and let's add another stash for this repository. For example, I want to make another changes. There will be another change. I again want to stash these changes. So now we will have two changes. So I use git stash, and now let's show all stashes. So we use git stash list command. And you can see now that one of the stash is with message, changes in CSS and HTML files. And here we have message that was generated automatically. Okay, in this situation I can understand what is this about. But if we have multiple changes in files, it is very possible that we will not understand what was this stash about. So I recommend you to stash changes with correct message, then later you will understand what were these changes about and how to use them. Now, what if you have multiple stashes and you want to apply only one specific one, not the newest, but one from the middle of the list? Each stash has a number. Stash 0 is the newest and stash 1 is older, and so on. You just pass that number to the command, and we can use two different commands, git stash apply and git stash pop. What is the difference? The main difference is that git stash apply keeps stash in the list, so we use changes from this stash, but this stash keeps in the list so we can use it again later. And git stash pop, it removes stash from the list, so after we use these changes, we will not be able to use it again in some future. So what is my advice? Use apply first, check that your changes came back correctly, then if everything looks good, you can drop the stash manually with git stash drop command. Also we can use git stash clear command that will remove every stash we have at the moment for this repository. Let's try out these commands in Visual Studio Code. So let's run git stash list command here in the terminal. See our stashes available, and let's apply changes of stash with index 2. So git stash apply and index 2. So here I have these changes in source panel shown, but let's check whether this stash already exists so we can use it in future. Yeah, so as you can see, we still have this stash in our with index 2, so it wasn't removed as like we wanted. So in future we can use it again. Let's drop this stash manually using git stash drop and index 2, and let's check it. Git stash list. Yeah, so as we can see, now we have two stashes, so everything is fine. Great, you know all the terminal commands, but Visual Studio Code also has a built-in GUI for stashing, and sometimes it's just faster to click. Let me show you how. So here we have commands for each change. We can open this file, discard changes, stage, and here is badge that this file was modified. And these are not all commands we can use, so I can right click over this change, and from this menu I can find whether it is stash here. No, there isn't. So let's find in another place. Here we have more actions button, and we can find here all available commands for Git. So let's find stash, and here we have stash command. We can write stash message here. Let's type it, another stash. and enter. Let's check it, but we want to show view stash. And here we can see the list of available stashes. Clicking on it, we can see the changes in this stash. Let's close this window with changes. And now we want to pop our changes. So let's find it. Stash. So here's the quick button, pop latest stash. And we can also choose manually the stash we want. For example, we want this one. Clicking on it, we pop this change. As for me, I prefer buttons because it's faster. Let's do a quick recap. In this video you learned 5 important git stash commands. Git stash, it saves all changes and cleans the working directory. Git stash push with message for file. It stashes one specific file with a description name. Git stash list, it shows all stashes and their name. Git stash apply with index of stash, it restores a specific stash and keeps it in the list. Git stash pop restores and removes the stash from the list. Git stash drop with index of stash deletes one specific stash manually, and git stash clear deletes all stashes, and no wonder possible for this command. I also have an article about git stash and pop commands where you can find all the commands and best practices when and how to use them. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel to grow. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I read everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Happy coding!